So you guys have got this. So please, the most important thing of the class is not, you know, what posture you do, how deep a posture you go into. It is how you breathe and when you breathe. And it's just the fact that you notice this, not that it has to be any sort of way or any perfected way, just the fact that you notice. Very often we take a breath in and it kind of stops here or here. Just notice the difference when you feel the bottom of the lungs, even the belly, and not only breathing into the front of the body, but breathing into the back of the body also. And we're going to start sitting. If you find it uncomfortable sitting cross-legged, then you can always kneel like this instead. Keep the shoulders back and up. That's it. We found it. Okay. If you haven't got a bolster, you can always use a cushion. You know, anything from the sofa that's just going to lift the hips a bit higher than the knees. Because very, very often when the butt is lower than the knees, the spine will round, and that can be agony. If you can lift the hips, lift the shoulders, it's going to be much easier. Next week, if it's okay with Jason and the guys, it's going to be a pure yin class, which is where we will need a bolster. If you haven't got a bolster, don't worry, you don't have to buy one. I'm going to show you how you can make one. All you need is a fitness or a yoga mat and a pillow. You can kind of do it with just a pillow, but it helps to have a mat. You can borrow one. So basically, this is going to make one of these. Just pop the pillow at the top end of the mat. And depending on how big you want the bolster to be, is going to depend on how big your pillow is. If you want it to be slightly smaller, then just really pad the thing down and then we tightly roll the yoga mat or the fitness mat around the bolster, around the pillow. And this will do just as good a job as this guy here. I'm going to use that today. You don't necessarily need one tonight, but something to lift you, like a pillow or a bolster, will come in handy. I'm going to sit up on mine for now, just to lift the hips a bit higher than the knees, and we're going to start the class. So you can be kneeling or cross-legged, and if coming to a cross-legged position, the options would be to actually bring the knees down to the floor, so you're in more of a tripod position, and the heels come in towards the pubic bone, arms perhaps resting on the knees or on the thighs. Alternatively, we scoot the feet so that the ankles are underneath the knees. Make sure those hips are high up and comfortable enough. So really get the feet underneath the knees. Again, the hands can rest on your knees. They can rest on the floor, perhaps on the bolster behind you, or perhaps here. It's wherever you feel most comfortable. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. As you inhale, allow the breastbone, your chest, to lift as if it's trying to reach up towards your chin. Let the shoulders and shoulder blades be heavy. On the exhalation, allow the shoulders to become heavier. Perhaps the hands slide away. You're going to turn the head towards the right. Just to look over the right shoulder. Deep breath in. Exhale, turning the head to the left. Deep breath in. Start to breathe into that tissue of the right side of the neck that might feel a little bit tight. Exhale back to the center. Just bring the chin down into the chest and notice the feeling as the back of your neck is long. If you pull the shoulders back, squeeze the shoulder blades together, you'll feel even more length in the back of the neck. Deep breath in. Exhale, let the body go. And maybe just round the shoulders. So you might look forward to start with as you're rounding the shoulders, but if you can, allow the chin to be down in towards the breastbone. It's going to help you really get this sense of massage in the space just at the base of the neck and in between the tops of your shoulder blades. The more slowly you move, the more slowly you roll the shoulders, the more you're going to feel this. Exhale. Inhale, shrugging up. This is the last one. Exhale, shrugging down. Tip the right ear towards your right shoulder. And you're going to reach the left arm. So it's just resting on the floor. You can rest on the thigh if you prefer. Let's see if you can reach the fingertips towards the ground. The right hand can rest too if you prefer, or you can lift the hand up and just rest it on the top of the head and use the weight of the elbow and the hand to maybe pull the right ear a bit closer to the shoulder. Deep breaths. And we'll use the in-breath now to open up any sense of tension. So send the in-breath to this tissue here. As you inhale, imagine it's kind of inflating that space. And as you exhale, just let everything go. 2 more breaths. If you want more, then just push the floor away with the left hand ever so slightly. It's really subtle. Deep breath in. Just push that left hand into the ground. Exhale. Let there be a softness in this pose. The right hand comes to the right side of the head and just lift the head back to center. Other side. So we're resting the hands on the floor again and just let that left ear fall to the left shoulder. And you can use gravity to let the head fall. Or if you want more, you can use gravity with the weight of the elbow and the hand. We're not pulling, but the weight of that hand is letting the head fall ever so slightly more to the left. Maybe tip the chin upwards. Maybe tip the chin downwards, whatever feels best for you. 3 deep breaths, in now. And the breaths become longer each time. Perhaps the inhalation becomes a little bit longer than you thought was possible. Breathe in a little bit more. And as you exhale, just let everything go. If you want more, just press the right fingertips to the ground. You'll feel the stretch intensify. You'll feel the stretch intensify across the side of the neck. This is the last breath here. Exhale, soften, but stay in the pose. And then just guide your head back to center. You're going to inhale and bring the arms up. And the arms move as slowly as the in-breath takes to get to the end of the inhalation. So the fingertips touch as you get to the end of the inhale. As you exhale, we're going to bring the right hand to the left knee. And your left hand is just going to stay to the side of you for now. We're going to twist. But before we twist, think about keeping the hips facing forward. This is not a twist of the head, it's a twist of this space here. And you want to keep the collarbones as wide open as you can the whole time. Often what happens is people do that, and then they finish it off with the head. If you can, keep the shoulders open. From here, so right hand is on the back of the left knee. Your left hand can reach behind you, and it can rest up on the bolster if you want, or on the ground, and roll this left shoulder open. Keep looking forward for now. So it's more about a twist of the shoulders than it is anything to do with the head or the neck. We're opening up the thoracic part of the spine, the chest. Deep breath in, lift the chest. Now if you want, exhale, twist deeper, maybe allow the head to follow. 2 breaths. Slowly come back. As you inhale, bring the arms back up overhead. On the exhale, left hand, right knee. And bring that right hand behind you. I'm going to turn so you can see. If you want, you can always use the right hand, use the bolster to balance the right hand. Yeah, or bring it on the floor, or just bring it to the small of the back. Find lift in the chest first, and then take a deeper twist. Now the head is just a finisher. It just looks fancy. If you want, you can keep the head forward. If you can, just reach this hand behind and around the side of the body. Focus on rolling that right shoulder back. And as the right shoulder rolls back, perhaps there's space for the head to turn behind you. 1 more breath. and release. From here, bring your hands either side of the body, perhaps behind you. And you're going to lift the chest as if it's trying to reach up to your chin. So the back of the neck is staying as long as possible. Shoulders are soft. They're going to try and rise. Shoulders soft and heavy. If you want more, you can look up. But keep the feeling of the breastbone lifting as if it's trying to reach the chest as the shoulder blades will squeeze together. One more breath in. Close the eyes if you wish. Exhale, bringing the chin into the chest. And the hands come forward now. We're going to fold forward. Just rest the fingertips like you're making TP shapes. And rather than just thinking, right, how far down to the ground can I go? Think instead, how much can I lift up? So the arms become long and the spine becomes long as the chest rises. If you want more, you can wiggle the fingertips forward. Keep this length in the chest. Keep the chest lifting as you hinge at the hips and wiggle the hands forward. Don't go to your maximum. Just before you reach the max, inhale, come up higher. See how my fingers are sliding back towards the knees? It's like I'm coming out of the pose. And I'm lifting up. Exhale. If you want now, you can let the weight of the head be heavy. Chin is into the chest. Perhaps slightly round the spine and rest the elbows, forearms. Maybe even making a pillow for your forehead with the fists. Perhaps your forehead comes down to the ground. If none of these things, this is lovely. Shoulders still pulling back. One more breath. Get those shoulders pulling back. And you'll know when you're pulling them back because you'll just feel that line at the base of the shoulder blades. Come back. Okay, from here, as long as it's comfortable for you, if everyone can come up to kneeling. So you're sitting on the backs of the legs. If this is causing any pain in the knees, that's not a stretch, it's a genuine pain. So maybe come back to cross-legged, or you can even do this lying down with the knees bent and feet flat to the floor. If sitting back on the heels is not possible today, you can always lift the floor to meet your butt. Sometimes you need a bigger cushion, that's fine, but make sure that you can actually rest the body back. Sometimes when these fall out, everything goes mute, so just let me know if you can't hear me anymore. From here. Reach the arms forward and either interlace the fingers or hook the thumbs. And we're going to reach the arms as far forward as possible. Pull the chin into the chest and almost pulling the middle of the back of the spine to the back of the room, away from the laptop or your phone. Deep breaths in, and we're filling out the entire upper back space. 2 more breaths, inhaling, the arms are reaching forward as the middle back is reaching backwards. Fill that space with breath. Inhale. Exhale, release. Raise your arms, hands in line with the shoulders. You're going to bring the right hand on top of the left. And from there, you're going to hook, just bend the right elbow and turn your left palm face up. You're going to hook the right elbow into the elbow crease of the left. So the right arm is up higher. From here, just take hold of the shoulders. This might be where you stay. If so, lifting the elbows, keeping the shoulders low, rather than up around the ears. So as the elbows rise, the shoulders are still pulling down and away from you. If you want more, so you can stay here. If you want more, you make sure that that right elbow is in the hook of the left, and you're going to take hold of the wrist or the thumb of the higher hand, which is actually your right hand. If that's comfortable, then you can actually bring the hands into prayer if you wish. Now, it's important that you lift the elbows up again and keep these shoulders pulling down. I'll show you. Keep breathing. Often what happens is the shoulders come up around the ears and the elbows come low. We want to do the opposite. With every in-breath, we lift the elbows almost to chin level. Out-breath, pull those shoulders down and they will naturally broaden. Inhale, elbows rise. Exhale, shoulders down. One more. Exhale. Release. Left arm on top this time. Turn the palms face up. Left elbow into the right elbow crease and take hold of the shoulders. This might be perfect. Remember, the shoulders are down as the elbows are rising. And we breathe into this entire back space as it broadens. If you want more, turn the palms up. We clasp the hands together. Maybe it's taking hold of the thumb, that's great too. And as you roll the shoulders down, start to lift the elbows higher. One side will feel tighter than the other. Don't worry about this. Just bring your attention to how you breathe. And it doesn't matter how you breathe, it is simply that you have an awareness of the breath. Deep breath in for 3, shoulders low, elbows higher. Exhale. 2, inhaling. Exhale. Last breath in. And can this be the longest inhalation yet? So when you reach the top of the inhalation, is there room to breathe in a little bit more? Exhale. Can the out breath become longer than the in breath that preceded it? Let go. Just a little bit of a roll. Now you're going to lean forward. If you find that holding down dog is agony, this is a really good exercise for you to do. And you're going to actually turn, so the backs of the hands are on the floor. I'm going to turn to one side so you can see. And this mat's got room, I've got to straighten it and flatten it a bit. So again, you might need cushioning underneath the butt, and it depends how your body is, the dimensions of your body, the tightness around this part of the wrist. For some people, it's better to have the arms forward and you sit back and lean back. For other people, it's nicer to have them closer and let the wrist come close to the floor. Now, you might be here and feeling a stretch. That's where you stay. There's no need to go any deeper. But when you find a place where you feel that tightness, without it being a pain, but there is a tightness, that's the location you need to send the in-breath. Imagining that that in-breath was like marinating the tissue, or that there's a balloon here, and as you inhale, the balloon expands. Breathe into that place. On the exhalation, there is no effort, simply let it go. One more breath. Exhale. And release. With things like holding down dog, with the hands like this, there's not a lot of modern movement we do with the hands like that, apart from telling people to shut up. It's generally like this on the computer, you know. So that stretch is really, I mean, even this, it's a really, really deep stretch. You can do it sitting upright as well, which is a little bit less intense. So you can always do that if you're at the computer or anything like that. And more for the arms. You're going to lift the right arm up. Bending that elbow, left hand catches the right elbow. And keep lifting the chest without flaring the ribs. So the ribs are slightly tucked in here, tummy button is in. Deep breaths. Stay here. If you want more, if you wish for more, then reach the left arm up and try to create as much length as possible first before anything else. Then breaststroke, and still we're creating as much length and width of the arm as we can, because it will make it easier to catch the fingers. If this doesn't happen, then maybe you use a strap, or just rest the hand behind you, or come back to this. If you feel a stretch here, then that's perfect. If you wish to take the bind, If you have the bind, you can turn the head towards the left. But the left shoulder is reaching backwards. The left shoulder should not be rounding forward like this. If this is happening, then you've gone too far, then just return to here. One more breath. Exhale, release. Other side, left arm. And don't rush this. Do this in stages, even if you know you can go to the more advanced poses. Just see if you can create a stretch in the shallower poses, and you can, just using the breath. Inhale, lift the chest, tuck the ribs in, lean the head, chin upwards, and you'll feel the stretch deepening, not only in the arm, but in that portion underneath the shoulder blade. I know my shoulder blade's not here, I just can't get my hand all the way around. If you want more, reach that arm up first. Breaststroke it round, so you're really creating this length. And then maybe resting the hand to one side, maybe on the floor behind you, or taking the bind. And if you wish, turning the head to the right. But again, this right shoulder is away from the chin. 2 more breaths. Can the breaths become longer? Can the inhalation be longer than the exhalation that preceded it? Can the exhalation become longer than the inhalation that preceded that? And it's not a command, it's just a question. Release. I'm going to come down to child's pose now. And the thing with child's pose is that in this case, it should be a resting pose. And very, very often, we find ourselves in this child's pose where we've got the arms out here, we're trying to hold on, and the head doesn't come to the floor. And so if the head is not resting and it's just hovering here, then my neck muscles and my upper back muscles are doing all this work to hold the head upright. You want to let all this tissue go, so it's important that the head rests. Now, if the head does not reach the floor, that's not a problem. You can use a bolster or a blanket or a book or a yoga block if you've got one, to actually lift the floor to meet you. So you can lift the floor up, and then the forehead can rest, and all of that tissue that was working so hard to hold it upright can melt. You might need to pop something underneath the hips, whether it's a bolster or a blanket. Again, that will help you relax the tissue of the back of the body in your posterior chain. From here, if you're happy here, if you feel enough of a stretch, then fantastic. But I'd like you to try stretching your fingers, and then just look forward, and you're going to turn the hands thumbs up. From there, release the fingers once more, and you're actually going to put the backs of the hands on the floor. This may feel intense. Again, pull the shoulders back, shoulder blades down the spine. Deep breaths in for 5. Keep pulling the shoulders away from the ears, and you'll feel them broadening. Inhale 4. Exhale. Deep breaths into the upper back. Inhale 3. Let the belly soften as you breathe. Can you find a place here where actually the hands rest, the fingers are no longer stretching or screaming? Let the limbs soften. One more breath. And yet still the shoulders are pulling back ever so slightly away from the ears. Turn the palms face down. And just twisting, so we pull the hands over to one side. If you really liked that thing with the palms face up, you can do that here again if you want. And let the body go. Again, you might need to bring your brick or your block or your blanket just to lift the floor up to the forehead. Now, my palms are face up, yours might be down. I leave it up to you. Same side, pouring your way over to the other side. So it might be just the arms on the diagonal, or you could actually pick up the entire torso and let that move on the diagonal as well. It's almost as if the torso is resting across that other leg. Make sure the forehead is resting on something, whether it's the ground or a cloth. And as you breathe here, breathe into the shoulder blades as though your shoulder blades are your lungs. Allow the back of the body to expand and fill. As you exhale, let the body soften. Let the body go. The elbows bend. The arms are resting here of their own accord. You are not reaching or holding. It's resting. Right down, back to center. And you're going to come up onto all fours. From here, it's thread the needle. So if you know thread the needle and you want to get yourself in that stretch as quickly as possible, you're welcome to. You're going to pick up the right hand. And before you go any deeper, actually, if your hands are too close to the knees, the back is rounding. You actually want to give it a little bit more length so it's got more space to twist. Sometimes even having the hands farther ahead than the shoulders. You can adjust it as you go along, but picking up the right hand and feeding it through, feeding it. And don't rush to get this shoulder on the floor. So you're reaching this hand, sliding it away as far as you possibly can. And then at the last moment, placing that right shoulder and the ear down to the ground. Your left hand is resting underneath the left shoulder like a half press-up position. And this might be where you stay. Breathe. Just check if your hips gone uneven. Very often the left hip will go higher. You want that right hip to be up in line with the left, and that will deepen the twist before you've even twisted. If you want more, lift that left arm up. Perhaps you roll onto the side or the back of the head. If you want more, turn the palm behind you and bend the elbow, resting the hand on the small of the back, or maybe the side of the body. The main focus of this pose is keeping the hips level, lift that right hip in line with the left, and rolling open the left shoulder. So as the left shoulder rolls open, your left shoulder blade almost falls down the body towards the ground. One more breath. And release, reaching that hand back up to the ceiling or the sky. I wonder if someone's outside today. Left hand places underneath the left shoulder and you do this half press up back. If you felt restricted, it's probably because your hands are too close to the knees. So just come a bit longer. Left hand. Now, this reaching is really important. You want to reach as much as you can before you get the shoulder onto the floor. Imagine you're reaching for the last Malteser under the sofa. Reach, so we slide. And just slide a little bit more. Just when you think now's the time to put the shoulder there, reach a bit more. Left shoulder comes down, side of the head comes down. And the right hand might stay flat to the floor, almost underneath the right shoulder. Just check, your left hip has probably dropped and the right hip has probably gone higher. Can you lift the left hip in line with the right? The right arm maybe reaches up. Perhaps it reaches behind you. And if it reaches the side of the waist, it can rest in the small of the back. If the side of the waist, can you reach for the top of that thigh? Janet, just see if you can scoop the fingers farther from the top of the thigh towards the inner thigh. Roll that right shoulder open and up. Let the belly be soft, breathe. 2 breaths. And again, the breaths become longer. Right hand rises back up. Right hand underneath right shoulder. That half press up and slide with the left hand. You're going to come to all fours. And we're going to spend like 2 minutes balancing. So reach the right leg back behind you. And right leg back behind you, the toes can rest tucked under on the ground if you want. If you want more, just lift that foot off of the floor. It doesn't matter if this left foot is toes on the floor or tucked under. For me, it's toes on the floor. If you want more, left hand comes forward. You're resting the fingertips on the floor. Maybe the toes are still there, that's fine. Or you can lift both. As you breathe, reach the heel back as the fingers reach forward. So you're trying to get the tips of the fingers and that right heel as far away from each other as possible. And notice that my back foot is not pointed. The foot is flexed. It's like I'm pushing away this Egyptian booby trap wall. You might stay here if you want more. And see how my knee, the lifted knee, is in line with the hip. It's not dropped, it's not higher, it's in line. Bend the right knee. Still, if that knee lowers, just lift it up. From there, we breaststroke the arm round, that long breaststroke as you try to lengthen that left arm and perhaps take hold of the foot. If you've got a belt and you can't reach, that can be very handy. Otherwise, just come back to the balance if you've got the foot. And the ankle, ideally, lift the right knee higher, 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 higher. So actually, once you've got hold of the leg, it's just about trying to get the right knee as high as possible. Shoulders all away from your ears. One more breath. Exhale, come back. Take a little child's pose. And choose your balance. So it might be that the left toes are tucked under, balancing on the ground, as the right fingertips reach forward. And we're focusing on lifting the belly button, lifting the front ribs, and finding a lightness in the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes. If you want more, lift the left leg. Lift the right arm. And think, how much can I reach them away from each other? So it's like we're pulling the left leg and the right arm taut. Stay here, or if you wish for more, bending that left knee. See how my foot is flexed? Not pointed, it's flexed. That will protect the knee joint. From there, we don't just sling the arm back. We're going to breaststroke it round, wide, wide, wide. So this will make the arm longer and it makes it easier to actually catch the foot. See how my knee is dropped? Lift, 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 lift the left knee as much as you can. 2 breaths. I was shaking my head at me, by the way, for dropping the knee, not any of you lot. 1 more breath in. Exhale, slowly release. Child's pose. Maybe with the toes touching and knees wide apart, let the arms fall forward. We're not staying here for too long. Come back up onto all fours. Tuck the back toes under and coming up and down and facing dog. So have the knees as bent as you need so that you can really yawn open the armpits. Have the armpits wide. Lifting the right leg. And it doesn't have to be a high lift. If you want it to be a high lift, yes, bend the right knee, stack the right hip on top of the left. And as you do that, notice how the left heel comes closer to the floor. Right knee behind the right wrist, pigeon pose. Scoot that left leg back long. Stay as you are. I'm going to come to the front just to show you something. The options in pigeon. Usually, the right knee would be behind the right wrist or to the side of it, and then the shin is on the diagonal. If you can, just bring the foot forward. So the shin is actually parallel to the front of the mat. But if you do that and the hips raise, just bring the foot back in the diagonal. Get this left hip bone down as the right hip crease is reaching backwards. So the left hip bone comes down and forwards as the right hip crease reaches back. Fingertips. And the back of the neck is long, chin is slightly tucked in. Really lengthen the back of that neck. If you're comfortable here, you can walk the body forward. Maybe resting on the forearms. maybe resting your arms. Ignore my foot that's bent the 5 places in the way. Forehead on the floor. Resting up on your forearms is fine, or even staying here. If you're lying down, then start to pull the fingers back up. Shoulders away from the ears, coming back to up on the tips of your fingers. You're going to tuck the back toes under and then just come back up into your downward facing dog. Just pulling out the legs now, so bending right leg, bending left. Lifting the left leg this time, as low or as high as you wish. So it might stay here, it may even just be here, that's fine. If you want to take a deeper stretch in the hips, bending the left knee and stack that left hip on top of the right. Now what happens generally is that the left shoulder comes up quite high and the right shoulder caves in on you. Please turn your head, look underneath the right armpit and pull that left shoulder down low. You feel a deeper stretch in the shoulder blades. So both shoulders are level with each other again. Keep lifting that left knee and then shoot left knee behind left wrist. The right leg slides back behind you and see how the shin is either diagonal or perhaps parallel to the front of the mat. For me, for balance, I have it diagonal. Inhale. Back of the neck is long, chin is tucked in. Really use this opportunity to get some length in the back of the neck, often, especially in things like up dog. There's a lot of this. But our neck doesn't often have this opportunity to lengthen here. So tuck the chin in, don't be afraid of a double chin. Not in this case. One more breath. Now either stay here or if you wish, sink low. Resting on the forearms. Or perhaps sliding the arms out long and resting the forehead either on pillows made with your hands or even the ground. Just check that your right hip hasn't lifted. Reach the right hip forward and down as your left hip crease reaches back. And then let the body go. 2 breaths here. Start to pull the hands towards the shoulders, underneath the shoulders, and guide the body back up. Just going to stay on the tips of the fingers for now. And can you find a lightness? So it's very light in the tips of the fingers. The back of the neck is still long. If you're comfortable to do so and you feel that lightness, if you want, walk the hands a bit farther back. Keep this lift in the chest and interlace the fingers behind you. Roll the shoulders back. This is the time if you wish to. Chin can stay tucked in, or if you want, look up. But try to keep length in the back of the neck by pulling the shoulders down. Hands back if you can. Now from here, you're literally going to swivel the legs away. Actually, you might have to change direction. It might mean you're facing away from the phone or computer. Point your toes, reach the arms forward. And it's like you're trying to reach forward as much as you can with the hands and the feet. But from the back space, if you practice Pilates, you'll know this very well. Start to see curve down. The whole time the arms are still reaching forward, and you'll feel this broadness and stretch between the shoulder blades. Keep reaching the arms forward, toes are still pointing. Very, very slowly. Layer each and every one of the spinal bones one by one down to the ground. Middle spine, the skull, elbows, backs of the hands. Your heels and legs are as wide as you wish, and the toes, the sides of your feet roll open as if covers of a hardcover book. Let the back of the neck be long. Shoulders away from the ears. As you inhale, notice the chest and belly rise. On the exhalation, can you let the back body soften? Can you let the body go? Your attention, if anywhere, is on the space between the eyebrows. And with every breath, as it softens, perhaps the attention descends to the space behind the heart. The jaw is relaxed. The forehead is soft. There is space between the upper teeth and the lower teeth. As you inhale, the entire front body rises. On the exhalation, can you let the body go? Become aware of exactly that which you're feeling. Good rest for that sensation. As you breathe, when you breathe, allow the in-breath to stir you. Send the breath to the tips of your fingers and your toes. If you wish to rest here, by all means, please stay exactly as you are. Otherwise, please bend the right leg, foot flat to the floor. The left leg, foot flat to the floor. And then just allow the body to fall to one side. It doesn't matter which. Use your lower arm as a pillow. If you wish to stay here, by all means, please stay resting as you are. Use the in-breath to fill that top side of the waist, and it rises like a rainbow arc upwards. Fill the top side of the body. On the exhalation, let that top shoulder, elbow weigh heavy, let the body go. If you wish, slowly return and join me for sitting. shoulders soft. Very in-breath, the chest rises as you exhale. Can you let the body settle? Can you let the bones settle? The breath to settle. Anything that needs to settle. Reach the arms up, inhale. As the fingertips touch, watching the fingers, the thumbs. And as the thumbs pass the eye line, perhaps closing the eyes. When your hands reach your heart, shoulders soft. When your hands reach your heart, please lift your heart to meet your hands. Namaste. If any of you are still resting in Shavasana, that is absolutely fine. In fact, I encourage it. Thank you so much for spending your Thursday evening with me. There is time for a Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, then I'm here, I'm hanging around. You can always find me on Facebook with Victoria Adams, or I'm on Instagram as well, Victoria Adams. But there is time, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. If you're in a space where you're really rested and you don't want to break that, then please feel free to that's absolutely fine too. See if you can keep that for as long as possible. I'm going to turn the music down, so if anyone has got any questions, I might not be able to answer them, but I'll try. Susie, you're really, really welcome. Have a really nice evening. Namaste. Thank you, David. Welcome, Angel. Thanks, Jason. It's nice to meet you, half meet you. I hope I get to meet you properly soon. Thanks, Gemma. You're welcome, Carly. Have a really nice evening.